Good evening, everybody on Facebook. Good evening, YouTube on Carl's Conversations. Thank you for joining us tonight. As promised, we have a powerful panel, an all-star cast, minus one so far. We hope that Allison will join us just shortly. Everybody has such busy schedules, and so that's how it goes. Well, listen, tonight we are going to dive into some very important issues. We're going to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, its goals, its progress, and its perceptions. And we're also going to talk about criminal justice reform. We have a tremendous panel here today, uh, four powerful people. I consider it an honor and a pleasure to be able to have them to come on with me. The main thing we're trying to do here is to give a very current, present in the hour understanding and progress support. Number one, of the Black Lives Matter movement here in our region. We are in the Northern Virginia region, mainly Stafford and Fredericksburg. We want our audience to hear from us. There are many voices out there saying many things, and many things that they're saying are not true. We want to give you a real time understanding from the inside. And all of these people here on this panel are insiders. So listen, if you're joining us already, I want you to start a watch party and let your friends know that we are on. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We want to share this information with everybody. And while you're at it, if you find yourself on Carl's Conversations YouTube channel, please like, drop some comments, let us know what you're thinking. All right. Our panel here today consists of Miss Paulette Howard, Miss Naisha Wilson, Mr. John Reed, and Mr. Gary Holland. We are missing one. I'm not sure if Miss Allison is going to join us or not, but she may have had some technical difficulties. If she is able to join us, she will. So, panel, number one, thank you. What I'm going to do is have each of you to introduce yourself, take a minute or two, and just tell the audience something about yourself. I will ask you to mute your mics while you're not talking. There's just a little bit of background. We're going to start with Paulette. You're going to give us a little introduction. Then we'll go to Naisha, and then John Reed, and then Gary Holland. Paulette, please tell us something about yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Paulette Howard, native of Birmingham, Alabama. Migrated to Virginia almost 2 years ago. I'm just a mom of a African American male, grandmom of two African American males, and just want to see the change happen.
All right. Thank you so much. We lost Naisha for a minute, so John will ask you to come on and tell us something about yourself.
Good evening, Carl, and I just want to say good evening to everyone watching and good evening to all of our distinguished panelists. My name is John Reed. I am the editor of the PW Perspective. Our website is www.pwperspective.com. We are the only anti-racist publication here in Northern Virginia, and our focus is telling the stories of the silenced minority. I am a native of Macon, Georgia. I am the father of Bishop John H. Reed, a former civil rights leader, and also minister in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and of Vivian Reed. I spent my life working in ministry as a youth minister, also in education as a teacher and basketball coach. And I continue to work as a journalist on being able to highlight issues for social justice, equality, and eventually for the freedom of African Americans throughout the Northern Virginia area.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Gary, we're going to go to you, and then we'll come back to Naisha.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, everybody. Again, Gary Holland, live in Stafford, Virginia, married to Jeanette, 26 years, 5 children, love Northern Virginia, born and raised here, serving ministry at Word of Faith in Dumfries, Virginia, and have for a number of years. Also a member of the local Stafford NAACP branch, proud member of the Stafford Black Facebook group, and also a member of a new Facebook group that's really focused on activism called Enough. Also serve with Carl on the Hartford the Community Board, and just have a passion for serving in the community and helping others, and doing the best I can to bring about change so that my son and our children can have a little bit of a better future than we're experiencing now. So that's me. Thanks a lot.
And that's why he's wearing that Superman shirt. Naisha, please.
Hi, my name is Naisha Algiers Diamond Wilson. I am a military a veteran. I am here in the Northern Virginia area. I reign from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a mother of four beautiful children, a wife. I am an actress, comedian, and activist. I am the owner of Stafford Black, but I'm also uh, the starter of National Blackout Daily, in which was or is a group that highlights and educates people on racism, understanding what's going on in the communities around the nation. And it started when Trayvon Martin was murdered, and still going on today as far as activism goes. And I'm just here to be a voice. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And for those of you who don't know, I am Carl Armstrong, proprietor of Carl's Conversations. That's a platform that we're talking on today. I serve as the assistant pastor of Spirit of Truth Deliverance Church in Dumfries, Virginia. I'm director of operations for Heart for the Community Initiative. I serve with Gary and Naisha and Paulette and Facebook groups called Enough and Stafford Black, and trying to become active in the Stafford NAACP. There's a lot of things going on. We're trying to get a lot of things done. And so we're here. Once again, just before we get into it, if you're watching by way of Carl's Conversations on YouTube, please make sure that you like that channel. We're trying to build that platform. And if you have not yet followed me on Facebook, make today the day. All right, illustrious panel. And I'm going to present this question to Gary Holland first. So I want to know, what is the Black Lives Matter movement to you? And once again, understand we're trying to educate an audience who may not know. We're not talking about the organization, but the Black Lives Matter movement. I'll start with you, Gary.
Yeah, you made a good point there right at the end. The Black Lives Matter organization that really launched after Trayvon Martin was killed, and there was no real justice received for the person that took his life. The organization itself launched from that point, but it's evolved, and the tenets of the organization, the charter, have evolved as well. I'm not a card-carrying member of the organization itself. And really don't intend to. But the movement of Black Lives Matter and the movement across our country that has taken root across the world is something I absolutely support, especially when you think about the fact that throughout the history of this nation, 400 plus years, if you look at it historically, our lives really haven't mattered as much as others. And you can just go skip to 1865 until slavery ended. And then you had a long period of redlining, of Jim Crow, of the Black Codes, of not being eligible for the GI Bill, of not being able to move where you wanted to move, apply for the jobs you wanted to apply for, being segregated, not having access to education, et cetera, et cetera. Black lives have been minimized throughout the history of this country. Yes, we've seen some progress. Yes, we have had a Black president. Yes, we have millionaires like Oprah Winfrey and LeBron James. I don't disagree with all of that. But with all of that, we still make up less than 10% of the nation's income, or 10% of the income of other nationalities. So historically, our lives haven't mattered. So I have no issue saying Black lives do matter. And it's time for a change. It's time for us to unite within our communities, and also to unite with others that understand that we've been set out behind the 8 ball. And it's time for us to work together to change the narrative, to change society, to change law enforcement, to change the educational system, to change our political system, so that people of color are given the same opportunities consistently as others. So that's how I view Black Lives Matter. Organizationally is one thing, but the movement, I believe, is absolutely based in fact. And I think that anyone that's realistic would agree with that and have the empathy to work together to make a change.
All right. I'm going to go to Paulette, then to John, and I want Naisha to be the anchor on this first question. We know how she get down. Paulette, please. What is the BLM movement to you?
Well, let me say what it's not versus what it is. It's not police bashing. It's not about trying to pull down another race or other race just so we could be supreme. It is about us wanting to have our voices heard, us wanting to know, wanting you to know, others to know that we're here and we want to be heard just like everybody else. We want you to stop killing us in the street. We want you to change your ideas about us. And as we said in the past, we want you to sit down and have the conversation with us. The biggest thing that I've heard is that people want to say that Black Lives Matter is about police bashing. No, we're not. We're not about police bashing. I support the police, but I don't want them to put their knee in my children's back or mine. I want them to understand that my life is just as important as others.
Thank you so much for that. John Reed.
Absolutely. When you talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, what it simply means to me is the same thing that it meant of the 1860s or the 1940s or during the civil rights era of the 1960s and so on and so forth. It simply means we want to see it at the table. For so long, 400 years, we've been ignored. We've been looked down, beaten upon, and we've been treated as subhuman by a racist system that does not cater to our people. It doesn't give us an opportunity to have a voice. It doesn't give us an opportunity to be a part of a society, to make the rules govern the way it should be. What it teaches us is that Black Lives Matter says, hey, it's time for you to listen to us. It's time to listen to our issues. It's time for you to stop trying to categorize and politicize things to make it to subdue what we're talking about. And so what Black Lives Matter really means is, hey, from youngest to oldest, in all fields, education, finances, government, in all forms of life, that, hey, we matter just as much as anybody else. Our issues should be important and will be important, and you will recognize who we are and what we stand for. And as Sister Paulette just said, it doesn't mean we're trying to make ourselves better than anybody else. It simply means that, hey, you should be listening to us. Brother Holland said it best. Now, we are only 10% of the wealth. Well, if I could just bring that into a local level, in Prince William County, Black people only comprise 4% of the wealth in this area. And so it's time for people, for those in power structures, to allow our voices to be heard, as they stated, to give us a seat at the table, to allow us those opportunities so that we can make things grow, not only in our community, but in others. Because as Black lives grow, others will grow as well.
Amen. Thank you. All right, Miss Naisha, your turn.
Hopefully, you guys can't overhear the background noise. There's the ice cream man
It's
and my
all right.
neighborhood, and I'm outside. Black Lives Matter to me um, is all of those things that the other members of the panel have stated, and then more. Will say that I don't want a seat at the table. We have to dismantle that table. The table needs to be reestablished in such a way. I have a 17-year-old daughter who told me, Mommy, we can't fight for equality if we don't have equity. And she says, equity is bringing us up to where we're supposed to be, and then we can have equality. And so that's what I feel that Black Lives Matter means. I have four beautiful Black children whom I have to fight for on a continuous basis just to be treated fairly in education. And I don't believe that's something that I should have to be fighting for in this year of 2020, or I should not had to be fighting for it in 2019 or 18 at this point. Black Lives Matter is a movement saying that we are going to be heard, not that we want to be heard, but we're going to be heard, and you're going to hear us either way. You either way, because either you're not going to want to hear it and you're going to try to close your ears, or we're just going to make you hear it, and we're going to show you that we are going to take the table, turn it over as Jesus did, and make anew. Um, Black Lives Matter to me means that um, I don't have to worry about the next CEO position opening and my husband being passed up on a position at a job because he's a Black man and Black men can't lead. Black Lives Matter to me means that I can walk into a church and see that the parishioners are more than 50% white and it's being led by a black pastor. We can talk about those things. You know, I want to make sure that the focus of the Black Lives Mattering goes away from the negative connotations that are out there, saying that we're trying to take away the police force, we're trying to take away their money and their funding. No, but we also have to figure out and remember where the police came from and what that started from. They were enslaved people catchers. So we have to start to realize and understand the foundational elements of everything that we have here in the United States, and start to really start to break down those things and start to rebuild with equity so that we can truly have equality. And that's what Black Lives Matter means to me.
Thank you. For anybody watching, I'm sure now you have a much better understanding of what Black Lives Matter movement is. So I'm not sure about the rest of you, but on a daily basis, I find myself battling some of the negative press from the Black Lives Matter movement. Excuse me, from the Black Lives Matter organization. And I find myself constantly letting people know that, listen, I don't know much about the organization. I can't tell you much because I'm not a part of it. I am absolutely a part of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Oh my God.
So, oh yeah, I'm fighting it. So, I wanted to start with John Reed. I want to start with John because he covers so much of what's going on in Prince William County that he has to have an opinion. John, what are you seeing when we talk about differentiating between the Black Lives Matter movement and the Black Lives Matter organization? And are you having trouble balancing the two?
Not at all, Carl. And thank you for so much for the answer. Well, let me start first by talking about what, well, in the role of the press is, and myself being an editor of an anti-racist publication. What we do is we supervise the fact that Black is beautiful, Black is powerful, and that we do is accentuate the wonderful things about being Black, especially where we live. And as sort of the many excerpts of those who have done wonderful things to bring equity into this community. That being said, when in all the demonstrations that we've covered, whether it's been at the McCourt building or it's been some many of the marches we've been a part of, there hasn't been much of a difference at all because we're all united, all for the same cause. And what I like to say is that when you talk about things from the media standpoint, a lot of it we know is to divide. All right. I mean, this has been going on since the era of the Black Panthers movement. Now, whenever there's an organization that is looking to change the image of Black people in the national mainstream, there will be those who do not want to see that happen. So as a result, they'll try to do negativity, try to divide us. And what I've seen in all the demonstrations, all the protests and marches we've covered, and interviews we've had, that everyone is united. And what the beautiful part about it is that you're seeing people not just for Black people, but people from different races, different cultures, but they're listening to what Black people have to say. So people from the BLM organization who focuses on making sure that police are not brutalizing our young Black men and women in the streets. People want to see more people in elected positions of power and to give Black people the equity that they need. What we're seeing is a oneness, is people who are talking about these issues and they are addressing them. And what we're doing is all talking about the same thing. You're seeing a lot of camaraderie, a lot of unity. I have not seen a lot of division going on, and it's not been politicized as some publications may want to say in public. But what we've seen is everybody's working together to make sure those goals are accomplished. And so that's one of the things I want to indicate during this panel is that our job in the media, as Black media, is to make sure that people know, hey, it's not the organization versus the movement. I want to get that clear, that what you're seeing is people from the organization and the movement are supporting each other. I saw, let me get a quick example. The changing of the Stonewall Jackson Middle School and High School in Manassas, Virginia. We went to the demonstration, and what we saw was people from the organization and people from the movement coming together. It was old and young, united. And everybody had the same focus. So even when those who were in favor of keeping the racist name of Stonewall Jackson, those people, it wasn't an organization saying one thing and the movement saying another. They were all in the same message. And that's what people have to understand. At the end of the day, it's all about Black. And that's what we need to make sure that it is exalted, the name Black, because that is what matters at the end of the day.
All right. I think one of the things that I'm up against is that the organization has been labeled Marxist. From what I understand, there are some some video of the founders saying that they were Marxists, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. I like I said, I don't know what you all are facing individually, and I'm not cowering to it. I'm just saying that I tell them I cannot tell you much about the organization because I don't know. But if somebody wants to jump in and give your perspective on it, I love to hear it.
Yeah, this is Gary. I mean, I'll just echo what I said earlier. I think if we all take a look at any of the or many of the organizations that we support, and you look back in the history, you look at some of the foundational, belief systems of those that have started those organizations, you may find some things. It's likely you'll find some things that you may not agree with. And I don't think the BLM is any different. I mean, churches are like that, for goodness sake. But I think that we need to do the research ourselves. We need to examine ourselves, examine our own hopes and dreams and our ideals and our ideologies, and we need to move forward accordingly. Because we're never going to find a place where I think we're in 100% agreement with the founders of organizations, et cetera. There may be, communist ideologies or Marxist ideologies, at the foundation of the heart of those that established BLM. I don't know. Just like you said, Carl, I don't know, but I do know that when I hear Black Lives Matter, I think as John, as Naisha, as Paulette said, about Black people and about Black people being given a fair share and about things changing. One last comment, Naisha said it, and I was going to say it later, time out for us going to the king asking for help. Time out for us going to the county governments asking for them to approve committees or to do things for us. We need to come together ourselves and we need to affect change ourselves. We have the intelligence, we have the finances, we have the strength, the resilience to do it. We just need to break down the things that divide us so we can make change and effect change ourselves and not always run to, the king for help in helping us to receive the equality and the justice that we deserve.
That's powerful. I think people need to hear that. Naisha, Paulette, do y'all have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say I totally agree with John and Gary. I'm sorry, Algiers. Excuse me. It's at the end of the day, the bottom line is all about Black. It's all about us coming together. It's all about us focusing on the end result. We want to overturn the table, as Algiers said. Yeah, it's time out for us to want a seat at the table. We need to reinvent the table. We need to get in there and say, no more. This is it. We're done. And for all of those people who feel like the burnings in Georgia, some of them were Black Lives Matter movement or organization. Some of them were not. But at the same time, we tried to do it peaceful. I think we have three, three out of the five that are from the South. Me being from Birmingham, we tried it your way. We tried it the peaceful protest. We tried it with the way MLK wanted it. We tried to do it, the sit-ins and the shut-ins and in the parks and everything. And you didn't hear us. You killed our leaders. So now it's time to take it to what we can where we can get your attention. If we continue to hit your pocket with the things that you don't we're buying every day, and if we can continue to hit your pocket, I think you'll listen to us. And yes, Garrett, they pay Oprah no attention no more than they do anybody else. Otherwise she would have been permitted to shop at the store once it was closed and they knew who she was, so they pay her no attention either.
All right, Trouble, you up. Naisha, do you have a comment on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I do. Thank you, Miss Paulette. Thank you so much for saying that. Historically, um, any movement of Black people for empowerment has been labeled negative. They always try to find just a little snippet, a little ideology that they can use and turn it into what they want to um, make their story. And so we have to be very careful when, of course, the media, when the press, when those who don't look like us get offended and afraid of the movements that we are making, um, because the worry is for them is that we are powerful in numbers, and when we start to understand our numbers and we start to understand how powerful we are, then they know the movement that we can make. They did it with my uncles and the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers was actually formed just to protect the Black men and women and children in the neighborhood so they can get from school to home without being harassed, with feeding them. That's where we get women, infants, and children from. That's where we get WIC from, to feed families who might not have had the means, all those things. So there's always a negative connotation. I mean, they killed Malcolm. They killed Martin. Anybody about they killed Mr. Evers. Like they'll continue to take what is good for us when we are moving our way to the top, and pushing forward for equality, justice, and being called whole men and women. They take those and they twist it, and then they twist it again, and then the lies are mangled, and then we don't hear what's coming out the other end because there's garble in the middle. And so we have to be very, very careful on how we as Black people view movements like Black Lives Matter and the owners of it, because there's always someone else and some other entity saying that's too powerful, that's too strong. We need to cut this short. We need to make this dirty so that teachers can't go out and protest with their for their students and for their own selves. And so, you can't have doctors. You're gonna be questioning the doctors out there protesting, and you'll be questioning all of these people because they've made it dirty and made it what it is not. And so, Black Lives Matter. I'm not a member of Black Lives Matter. I'm not on any of the boards here, but I sit very closely with Black Lives Matter Fredericksburg. I've done a few of their events. We have to be very careful ourselves when it comes down to Black organizations, Black organizing, and Black coming together, because again, we are powerful in number, and that's what they're afraid of.
Thank you for that. We keep using the word they, and I want to put my 2 cents in here. You know who they is? They they are the opposition, and they are in opposition for different reasons. You have some of they who do not believe that racism is a problem. You have some of they that know doggone well racism is a problem, but by openly denying it, they throw salt into what we're trying to do. They are those who believe that this movement is un-American, but they may not know that Naisha and I are military veterans, proud military veterans, and she may know, like I know, what it is to be in that uniform on foreign sand with that American flag on your right shoulder. Remember, sister? And when you can tell that tale, don't speak to me about being un-American. Protest is one of the most American things that you can do. So they are the opposition. And one thing I've learned in this walk, that they will hear what they want to hear, and they will see what they want to see, and they'll say what they want to say. But that's one of the main reasons why we are here, to speak to them and they. How about that? So, one thing that I want to talk about is the Black Lives Matter movement goals. I want to talk about the goals. I want to talk about our current progress. And I think we've already dealt with perceptions. I'm going to start with Gary because Gary does an excellent job at stating what we're doing. And then we're going to go right back to Naisha, and then we're going to go to Paula, and then John. John, I don't feel like we freeze you out, brother. We're coming to you. But I want to start with Gary. If you could give your piece of the pie, Gary, Black Lives Matter movement, from where you're sitting, from what you're doing, what are the goals?
I think the movement, I mean, some people have said, I'm sure we've all heard that coronavirus, it hadn't shut down churches. It's actually caused the church to grow and expand because people can have church in their homes. I think the BLM movement has done something similar in that it spawned a lot of micro movements, if you will. It spawned a lot of organizations. It's allowed a lot of people to find a voice that they didn't know that they have. So one thing that I've definitely seen as a result of the BLM movement is the explosion of people that are getting involved, people that are educating themselves, people that are teaming up, forming coalitions, forming groups, partnering with other organizations, etc., to really find out and determine how to make change locally. So I certainly have seen that. I know that one of the ways it's happened in our community is a large group of people, including Naisha and others, that we've worked together to rally, to protest, to grab the attention of political leaders, law enforcement officers, to have sessions with government leadership, law enforcement leadership, school board leadership, and the community. We've had 2 of those and are working on a third. We've been able to petition the Board of Supervisors effectively so that they formed a subcommittee to put together a commission on issues of race in Stafford County. There's been a huge effort on bringing down that large Confederate flag, or at least lowering its height, that a lot of folks see on 95. But people are coming together and people are educating themselves. People are learning what these officials do and what control and influence they have so they can begin to influence them. So that BLM movement has spawned, an awful lot of micro movements that allow people to really begin to understand the power they have, as Naisha said, and to begin to really act on it and to leverage it.
All right, Ms. Naisha, BLM goals and current status.
Black Lives Matters goals, empowerment, and education. If we don't understand and don't have an understanding, we are doomed to repeat the courses of history that have been so detrimental in our lives. And so the goal is to a reform, to make movement, to make change, to make anew, to refresh, all those things, making sure that we have our voices heard in the dismantling and the rebuilding, rebranding, refurbishing of the United States. It's educating young people and adults on voting, how that works for them, getting the word out. It's about, again, like Mr. Gary said, I'm sorry, Gary, it was, you were in and out and I couldn't hear you totally. It's about doing those things that we have been doing in the community, and even more so, not asking. Again, making sure that when we do go out in the community, when we are refurbishing our communities, that it looks like us. You know, I'm glad to be able to speak in front of the Board of Supervisors here and allow the community to speak with them. And I believe that Mr. Vernon Green and Mr. Gary and Miss Heather and all those people who are part of that collective group, allowing the people to get to be in front of the Board of Supervisors and all the superintendents of the schools and the deputies. That's something that should have already been happening. It's like that's what they are there for, and that's what the community is supposed to look like. So our goal is to make the community look like what it says on paper it's supposed to be, and it's not, really. To make sure that the police officers are accountable in neighborhood policing, and understanding that they are a part of the community and they must be a part of the community, and then they will get the respect that they are asking for, not just for wearing the uniform. Our goals is to, again, bring equity to equality so that we can all reach the heights that the Most High, that God says that we should be able to It's our God-given gift, and um, it is our God-given right here. And so that's the goal.
Thank you so much. Paulette?
I'm going to say it like this. One, communication. I think as Gary was talking, and maybe you, Carl, was talking, someone posted a comment to say that um, we have white allies, and that through your conversations and all of your panel discussions that you've been having, he's been able to get an understanding. So one of the things that I feel like the movement is doing is allowing people to hear, others to hear, and to understand that the Black Lives Matter movement is not to crumble just crumble and the integrity of the United States and to pit one against the other. We just want to continue with our life and have a good quality of life. The other thing that I feel like the Black Lives Matter movement and conversations like this, most of the people that I'm on Facebook with are from my hometown. So, of course, I do share this. So, a lot of these conversations are going to Birmingham. So, if this these type of conversations can spark something home to where they can get more involved and understand what's going on, because there's a small chapter of BLM in Birmingham, and they have been deemed to be radical because they take things into their own hands. But if some parts of the conversation and others can hear this and begin a dialogue, begin a conversation, it would help others, like the young man that made the post, understand just what we're trying to say and what we're screaming to the top of our lungs, that Black Lives Matter. You will begin to see a change. So I say to my family, friends, cousins, nieces, nephews, uncles, all of y'all in Birmingham that are part and surrounding area, get the conversation started. Don't just let it be about a few, and turn your back on them. Get involved in your community as well.
Hey, Birmingham, let me say this before John Reed comes on. Listen, we represent Stafford Black, we represent Enough, we represent Heart for the Community, represent PW Perspective. If you need ideas of how to get something started down there, we would love to let you in so you can see what we're doing. And maybe we can even get something started down there. It'd be awesome to have a Birmingham Black and a Birmingham chapter of Enough and Heart for the Community. We're doing positive things, and maybe we can have the Birmingham perspective also. Thank you so much, John.
Let me take you back to January 2020. All right. If I had told you that the name Stonewall Jackson will be taken down from the high school in Manassas and be replaced with the name of Civil Rights Trailblazers, you would have thought I was crazy. That was one of the results of Black Lives Matter. That was a result of people coming together and saying, hey, it is time for these racist names and institutions and symbolisms to come down. You had told me some of those statues in Richmond on Monument Avenue were going to come down back in January, you would never thought it would have happened. But look at what's been taking place. Black Lives Matter, in one of the things that we have seen during this pandemic, it has gotten the world to know is, hey, there are some real messed up things that are going on. And now they're finally coming down. For eons, there have been symbolisms of racism that has been perpetuated and raised and praised that no longer exist. And now when students, whenever they return to the schools, when they go back, they're going to see no longer the name of Stonewall Jackson and be ashamed of having a diploma with the name Stonewall Jackson. It will say Unity Braxton. It will say Unity Reed. See, that is one of the results of Black Lives Matter. Another result, Citizens Advisory Board here in Prince William County, where it is our goal to keep the police accountable, as Anisha was saying earlier. And we've talked with the outgoing former police chief, Barry Bernard, and the incoming chief, Jared Phelps, and talked to them about, hey, there is a board that will keep you accountable, because we do need to have policemen that represent us in our communities, in Dumfries, in Lake Ridge, and parts beyond of Prince William County and Stafford and Nokesville. We need to have better representation of those who are going to protect the community, look like us, who understand our issues. And now we're seeing in Dumfries, there are more applications for policemen than ever before, and more Black people are applying. So we need to see that change that we're to believe in to make that possible. Even one of the things that goes of Black Lives Matter was to get the recognition that, hey, from the Board of County Supervisors that they would say, hey, make a proclamation that Black lives do matter. And I cannot tell you how joyous it was to be there on that day last month at the court building where they made the official proclamation that Black lives matter. So we are seeing the results taking place. We're seeing more voter registration drives, as everyone, my fellow panelists have been saying earlier, that more people are registering to vote more than ever before in a time such as this. So for those who want to try to find ways to diminish the effect of Black Lives Matter, whether it's the organization or the movement itself, look at the results, look at the numbers, and you can say all things about people we got, we trust, and things of that nature, but all others bring data. And the fact of the matter is this: Black Lives Matter has brought data, and the data says change has come to the community.
Amen. Let me tell you something I'm so proud of. Maybe one of the unintended consequences was that just today, this morning, I looked at a documentary called 13th. Some of you may have seen that, right? But is one of the line of documentaries that I have seen the last maybe 7, 8 weeks. And not only I, but America is learning its history, and some of it is really not pretty. And I think one of the unintended consequences of the movement, we're coming face to face with a very, very ugly portion of our history that tells the real story of how we got here today. And when people understand the plight of Black people, Black and brown people, how we got here today, you tend to be a little bit more understanding about how we go forward tomorrow. The country has to take some responsibility. I know I hear people saying all the time, well, I didn't live during that time. I didn't own slaves. Why should I be punished? We're not asking you to be punished. We're asking you to understand that it was baked into the cake: unfairness, unrighteousness, unlawfulness. And now we're here. And we got to be honest about it and go forward. So that's one of the unintended consequences. And I'm thanking God for it. I want to turn the corner here just for a minute. And I want to talk about criminal justice reform. And I'm so glad about the work that we're doing in Stafford Black, the work that we're doing. And then enough, there are some stated initiatives: voter registration and civic engagement, educating the next generation, criminal justice reform, and economic empowerment. And all those things are very good things inside of the Black Lives Matter movement we're doing in the criminal justice reform as crime in our community. In criminal justice, you have three major legs: law enforcement, courts, and corrections. Now, we know up and down. I've had a few forums myself about police reform. But along with that, we also have to do something with the courts. We're talking about sentencing guidelines and even equity in how Blacks look in court. Because you talk about guidelines, but the data says that Blacks and whites can go to the same court with the same criminal background on the same charge. The Black person going to get 3 years in the penitentiary. The white guy can get 20 days in the county jail and go home. There's something wrong with that. And even in our corrections, we got to get rid of the prison industrial complex and private prisons. So there's a lot to do. And once again, I think I'm going to start with Gary when it comes to criminal justice reform. And sir, I just want you to give us a few words on what that looks like to you and the initiatives that have been started. And enough, what are we trying to do with criminal justice reform?
I think two key things come to mind. One, I think John said it very well when he said the data doesn't lie. And there is a study done last year. I forget where it was from, but it said that 100 out of 100,000 Black men and 39 out of 100,000 white men will be killed by law enforcement during their lifetime, based on that study, right? So it's clear that there's some challenges with criminal justice and reform is needed. I posted something on social media, and a white guy that I've known for a long time, I used to work with him. His response, it was about Breonna Taylor. His response was, what about some white guy that had been killed by police? And my response was, it's not about him. I said, I talk about people that look like me because I'm concerned about my son. The bottom line is this is something that affects all of us. It affects all of America. The problem with policing in America is that the issues are systemic, and the biggest problem is that it's distributed. Our policing systems are not managed federally; they're all managed locally. You may have an elected sheriff, you may have a police chief that's kind of managed by the mayor or by the board of supervisors. It's distributed in the way it's done. I think there are 18,000 different departments or divisions of law enforcement throughout the country. So it's hard to implement changes from the top down. The federal government can do some things, but it really has to start locally. So back to what I said earlier, people are springing up locally and learning this, and learning that in their environment, there's an elected official that's the sheriff, or there's a police chief that answers to the board. So they're learning where to go. They're learning who controls their budget. They're learning if they have a good law enforcement official at the top of the food chain, what their challenges are, what their struggles are, how they can help them, how the voice of the people can help them bring about change. So the change has to happen locally within law enforcement. And I think that light bulb has gone off for a lot of people. I know it has in Stafford and Fredericksburg. We're not there yet, but accountability is the key. And we're going to be forming a choke point here in Stafford where people can come and log any sort of a complaint they're having regarding racism or discrimination or injustice. And we're going to start collecting data about what's going on in Stafford so we can begin to hold law enforcement accountable ourselves and not wait on a committee or a commission formed by the government to do it. That's what's beginning to happen now. People are waking up locally and realizing that, you know what, the government can't fix this. We have to fix how law enforcement and policing is taking place in our communities. And we're beginning to see movement in that area now.
Wonderful. I want to give our audience and our panel a little bit of information. Black men make up 6.5% of the total population of Americans, but we make up over 40% of in jail population in this country. I'll say it again. Black men make up 6.5% of the total population of our country, but we represent over 40% of the prison population. There is something wrong. And what I'm saying that because we got to connect the dots. We can't believe that Black men are just more likely to be criminals. That's just not true. What is it in the system and the various systems that we operate that make it so that 1 out of 3 Black men can expect to do jail time, but only 1 out of 17 white can expect to do jail time? There's something wrong with that picture. And that's why the initiatives that we practice in enough, economic empowerment, voter registration and civic engagement, criminal justice reform, and teaching the next generation. That's why all this stuff is so important, because all the dots are connected. And we have to help us at every level, because wherever you see poverty, you're going to see crime. And wherever you see crime, you're going to see over policing and so forth and so forth and so forth. So I just wanted to put that out there for us to chew on. And John Reed, I want to know what you think about what's going on with criminal justice reform.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we have to remember this. The system was not designed for Black people. And so for us to think that we were going to get fairness in a system that wasn't designed for us, we're being a bit naive when we talk about that. The fact of the matter is that we live in a world where, in a society that basically does treat Black people, and for the most part, as some human. I'll take it on a local level in Prince William County. For years, it was a Black person and brown person was 4 times more likely to be arrested by the police and prosecuted more so than a white person. And I had a chance to speak with Chief D.W. King of Manassas about a month ago. We spoke to him at a Black Lives Matter rally. And I talked to him about that. I talked to him about, what is it that, and I'll speak specifically for the Manassas area, he was saying how, as far as criminal justice reform, is making sure that the people, that their police system is being held accountable, that they're 100% compliant. And that while he was proud to boast that, as far as I said, what is being done to address the issues of Black and brown people being arrested at such a high rate? And he said, that any issues within his police department in which there was a blatant case that looked like blatant case of racism, that the policemen were removed. They were either severely reprimanded or removed. And we need to have that across the board. And again, I'll go back to what I said earlier in a previous comment about the Citizens Advisory Board, that we as the people of the county and the community must continue to hold them accountable, hold our police chiefs accountable. If we want to see criminal justice reform, is be able to get those people in position, vote those people in position who we know will make a difference and will not kowtow to certain politics or certain agendas to see that happen. Because far too often, especially with our Black and brown younger people, they are sadly arrested at a higher rate. And we all know why that is. Private prison systems are all about profit. And so the more they can put in, the more they gain. And so that's another thing that needs to come to an end as well. Put it into these private prison systems and stop with the school to pipeline and school to pipeline, prison pipeline. And by doing so, we will see change happening in criminal justice reform and see it happen in our Black and brown communities.
Thank you. Naisha, since you already came off of mute, Paulette, go ahead.
I was going to say, I totally agree with what John said. And one thing that he said was profit. Um, when you have a system that is designed to, most of us in this community, can't afford proper representation when you go to court. So you are assigned a court appointed attorney. Well, you have those that are getting kickbacks, for your defense attorney. Your prosecutors are getting kickbacks. Some of your judges are getting kickbacks. So these people are profiting off of sending our people to jail. This is why we harbor so many of us in prison, because they have that rush judgment that says, well, it looks like a duck, it quacked like a duck, it must be a duck. So they look at us and they think, well, they come from impoverished neighborhood. They were in the neighborhood, may have been doing something totally innocent, wasn't doing the crime. So it's a duck. You look like you were guilty. You were in the area, so you're guilty. We're going to send you to jail. They give us these green defense attorneys who are thrown these easy cases and says it's open and shut. Send them in, and then they attach these exorbitant prison sentences to them, and when they get out, they have nothing. They don't have anything to contribute to society. So yeah, it's profitable, but we're not the ones that's getting the profit.
Amen. 1 second, Naisha, before you come in. One thing I want to add, as far as criminal justice, I like to get to the point where I don't have to feel the way I feel when I see police, when I see those blue lights. I've been in Christ since March of 1995. I have lived a crime free life since then. But I am still very uncomfortable when I come in contact with law enforcement because I don't feel like I will be treated equally based on how I have been treated in the past since I have been in Christ. So I think that we'll be able to measure when things are really changing, when we can see and feel it, that we won't be judged by the color of our skin because we finally gotten to a point where we can be judged equally. Whether that will happen in our lifetime or not, I don't know, but I will fight for it for the rest of my lifetime. Naisha, please.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gary, for what you said, Mr. Reed, for what you said, Miss Paulette. I could not hear you. I apologize. Um, Mr. Gary did something a few weeks ago, maybe it was a few months ago, but he reached out to the Stafford County Sheriff's Department because his concern was that on their page it was a consistent. All you saw was photograph, mugshot after mugshot of black men, and we're like, we know that we have uh, amount of criminal activity in our community, but um, you're not showing. It's not dictating what it looks like here. And so they decided, and then that they were wrong, and that they were showing a very bad depiction. And it's a implicit bias. It's a bias that they automatically put negative connotation on black men. So the mugshots changed all of a sudden. Mr. Gary realized that there was power in his words and his actions, putting that pen to paper, putting that keyboard to work, and saying, "Look, we see this. We as a community see this. This needs to change." And if we continue to do those things, because sometimes these uh, these groups, sometimes these uh, different people in positions of power need to be embarrassed or shamed into making the right choices. So that changed. But we're also seeing here in Stafford where they aren't putting mug shots of. There was a event that happened last night, and I'm not sure if you guys knew about it, but there was a vehicular homicide that happened due to uh, a car chase from someone uh, who stole a vehicle. They were pursued by the police, and then when they were stopped, the police tried to apprehend them. They got back into the vehicle, turned back around, and went down the opposite side of a two-lane road and killed a person who was driving. They apprehended the man, but they never put a picture up of him. Yet it's staggering the amount of uh, responses. Oh, you did a great job. You did a wonderful job. You guys apprehended him. But as soon as they find out that it was a white man, they sing a different tune. Oh, we don't know about his background. He may have stolen the vehicle because he was in need, but they don't see our needs, and they don't see that they put a little piece and morsels of food there. And everybody's fighting over those small morsels. They've taken so much away from us. They and 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 then they want to call our black young men animals, but they set the stage for it. Just as Mr. Reed said, the system is working correctly because it was built for them. And so we have to, um, again, it's all about education. It's all about making sure that we are speaking on it, that we are highlighting what is going on so that the change can be made. Because it's not going to come with us, it's going to come with the ones who are behind us. And so the children need to be educated. The young people need to be educated on what is going on and how they are seen, and so that they can make the adjustments now, so that the changes can come. Tisha Armstrong says, "I'll call our men thugs." They, it's always something negative. We are seen in a negative light. Myself, I've been harassed by Stafford County, and the police actually called me on, and I won't give my entire story, but the police actually called me, and he stated, "I am just doing an investigation because such and such happened." And I was like, okay. And he said, "You know what? I saw, as an officer," he said, "I saw a mama bear and you were protecting your cubs. So just as long as you don't go X, Y, and Z or say X, Y, and Z to this person anymore, you are fine. But I saw what was. But I still was arrested afterwards because, again, that person felt said they were afraid of me. They were afraid of me protecting and speaking out for my own children. That's what would look like in the criminal system. And I myself, uh, a veteran, a mother of four, a network engineer working at the Pentagon. These all over the media. I've been in the news. I've been the voice for this. I've been, in movies. I've done all these things. And here I am sitting before a judge, and the judge telling me that I can't speak for myself. That's what the justice system looks like for us. That no, you need to be quiet. This woman says that you did this, and you have no voice here. And I sat there as a black woman, like, wow, I've never been on this side, and I see what's happening. And this needs to change. Something needs to change because this makes no sense. In retrospect, it makes no sense. And if I'm getting treated this way, and I'm a white collar worker, veteran, black woman, upstanding, in my community, working in my community, and I'm treated like this. Imagine what those young people who don't have a voice, don't have the money to get a lawyer, don't have, like. something has got to change in our justice system, or it's just going to continue to be just us against them.
I thank you. And we're going to start to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but I want to bring something forth. I'm hoping that all these things that are coming out will help people to understand why we feel so strongly, why there needs to be criminal justice reform. John Reed said it. The system wasn't built for us. So for those of you who were in the founder's mind, it may work well for you. It's not working well for us. And the numbers and the data bears that out. I want to know what you all think about Back to Blue. This is the last question I'm going to ask before we wrap up here. But Paulette, I want to start with you. The Back to Blue rally. What is your opinion on that?
What's the point?
Oh wow, short and
I
sweet.
mean, I don't want anything to happen to them because in actuality, if someone breaks in my house, of course, the police is going to be the first person that I call. But you're trying to take something away from us to put the focus back on you. It's like it's that throw the rock and hide your hand type thing. I want them to focus on me. It's oh pitiful, poor pitiful me, police officer, when you are still throwing tear gas on protesters, shooting rubber pellets at protesters, when you are still putting your knee in people's backs and necks, when you are still wrestling to them to the ground in chokeholds, when you are still doing what you do to supposedly de-escalate a situation, and you're not doing it, and now you want to say back me, when you're some of them are the problem. No, like I said before, I don't want anything to happen to any police officers. I know police officers. I have friends that are police officers. And like I said, if anything happens, they would be the first person we would want to call. But at the same time, I don't want to fear calling the police, because in times past, you've come out to see what's wrong, and I wind up being the subject of your investigation. No. So I just don't I don't want that to happen.
All right, John Reed, Back to Blue. What do you think, sir?
Well, I'm gonna give Sarai and Fierce the King a lot of credit. Absolutely, it's white power. Let's do it, police, and more to do with white power. And I want to talk about a conversation that we actually had with covering Black Lives Matter rally and the Back the Blue. People showed up at the McCourt building. Simply this: the dialogue. It was basically it showed such insensitivity, such a compassion for the young black people who were being oppressed. So people who were just standing for those who could not speak for themselves. And so it was trying to counteract it as saying, well, you're trying to defund the police or you're trying to remove their presence. As Paulette just said, it's not about reducing the role of police, because when we're going through a situation, obviously we want those to protect us and when we're in danger, and to make sure our lives are taken care of so they can serve their role of serving and protection. That being said, we know what it comes down to. It is the All Lives Matter code to making sure that Black Lives Matter, again, the voices are snuffed out. And so it's all being about making sure that our message and what we do is reduced. And that is what it's based upon. And so any counteraction, and I've had this sadly also with white pastors who are more focused on Blue Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. And so it's very disheartening to see individuals, and most of them are old, whiter people. I'm just going to call it what it is. And there is a few others, but I'm just some of the conversations we've had with them. And most of it is centered around reducing the impact of Black Lives Matter and trying to snuff out the voice of younger generations versus those who are actually backing up people, our law enforcement officers, who we all are thankful for. But that being said, we know what it's rooted in, and it's rooted in racism.
All right, Mr. Gary Holland, what do you think about Back to Blue?
Yeah, I think I don't know who said it earlier. They were talking about narrative switching. Back to Blue, in my mind, is a perfect example of narrative switching. People are afraid of us uniting, afraid of us coming together, afraid or concerned about the Black Lives Matter movement. So the narrative has been switched, and there are people that are willfully ignorant, right? People that are accepting the nonsense that's being spewed out, that our protests are violent, that every time we come together, all we want to talk about, we're vilifying police. We're saying police need to go away. We're saying all police are evil. All police are heinous. The narrative has been completely manipulated, completely switched, and fed to a segment of our population that's chewing it all up. And we have the master narrative switcher in the White House, as we all know. And they've taken it in so much that they feel justified in Back the Blue. I believe they really feel that BLM or protesters or people demanding change like us, that we really hate the police because the narrative has been modified and manipulated so badly that people are willfully ignorant and they're digesting this. So they feel justified in these Back the Blue rallies, these white pastors, or even the black people I've seen supporting these rallies, supporting this cause. But it's all about the narrative being completely manipulated, and it's sad. The same thing happened with Colin Kaepernick. It was the narrative that was switched, and a certain segment of our population chewed it up. I went to the Back the Blue website. Let me read the first thing you see on their website, and this proves what I'm saying. Back the Blue is an American activism campaign focused on building community support for our local police officers. Here's the funny part. With radical leftist protesters constantly vilifying our local heroes, it is our job to stand up and defend their honor. Can you believe that? Can you believe
Wow.
that is an absolute switching of the narrative, and you have an entire segment of the United States chewing that garbage up. So they feel justified in these Back the Blue rallies, but the foundation is based on nonsense. Anybody that is honest with themselves would agree that what I just read is ridiculous, right? But that's what I feel about Back the Blue, since you asked.
And that's the
You
and
did
that's
answer.
the
Go ahead.
thing. That's the thing, Gary, that they take our movement, and although it may be peaceful in to get a justified end, we're always labeled as radicals. We're always labeled as terrorists or something. Anything that we do to try to go against what they're trying to make us do, we're always going to be labeled as radicals.
You know what amazes me about this country, and we're coming right to you, Naisha. We act like police corruption and police brutality is new. Every major black uprising in this country over the last 60 years has been due to police brutality or police corruption. Every last one of them. This is not new. You can go look at TV shows from 1960, 1968, 1973, panels just like this one, and they're the same conversation. So I thank y'all for peeping their game. Yeah, we know you're trying to change the narrative, but we're not going to let you. I don't think that they realize just how tenacious this movement is. It is not a fad. It's not going to go away. These young people who are leading it are tenacious. And that's what the gray hair like Gary and I, we try to do our best to push them along and guide them. But this is not a fad. Naisha, blue back to blue. What do you think about it?
These folks did not want to back the blue. I had never seen a back the blue uh, rally, parade, card, nothing until black people were yelling Black Lives Matter. It is the illustrious bait and switch. It is um, trying. The media did it though. The media. They take the narrative and then they flip narrative to what is more compelling, what makes the story, what gets the views, and so of course they're going to pit one against another, and once they do that, then the story just continues to build for itself. Again, the Back the Blue rally that started here in Fredericksburg was started by a white woman. Now, if any time you want to get something started, just allow a white woman to yell. and
Oh
she yells bloody
Lord.
murder, and that is a wrap. This woman yelled and said that she was attacked by Black Lives Matter.
I remember.
And then you have Tucker Carlson and Fox News and all these people just coming out of the woodworks. We must protect our own. Well, what the heck do you think we doing? Protecting our own. That's why we are yelling Black Lives Matter. That's why we are worried and defending our sons and daughters out here. That's why we are protesting. That's why we are withholding our money. That's why we are making as much noise as we are making because we have to protect our own too. So what gives you the right to protect yours and we don't have the right to protect ours? Let me tell you something. These people have the audacity to be so ignorant to even their white privilege to be out there backing the blue when there are hundreds of lives of black people being killed and taken and hundreds and thousands of black men in the system who and broken up apart families and all these things, and you have the audacity to tell me that you can stand there and back the blue. You know, for me it it was like a gut punch, especially to see some of the people who we have voted into position here in Stafford, Virginia, out there back in the blue, knowing that they've sat at the table with us to have the conversation for what the movements that we were making. And you are out there proclaiming we're backing our guys in blue, but yet you sat there acting as if you understood what we were saying and where we were coming from in our meetings. Oh, I don't like lip service. I don't like lip service. And these people are giving a lot of lip service when it comes down to it. They are pandering to their their folks and forgetting the fact that these that there are black officers too. But again, they don't fight for black officers when black officers do something wrong. Our black officers are either uh, their jobs are taken away, they don't get the pensions. You know what I'm saying? They don't treat our black officers the same, but yet they're backing the blue. I'm a blue life. So we talking about Smurfs here, Smurfs, or the ones that lived on Pandora in the little movie, the Disney movie. I'm just asking for a friend because last time I saw it was people of white and brown and black cues inside of blue uniforms. I have no time for that foolishness. My kids, my son was like, back the blue? Who's blue, mommy? He's 8 years old. Who's blue? I don't know who's blue. But I can tell you this, I have uh, uh, first cousins, second cousins. I have a whole family of police officers who have said, cousin, continue to do what you are doing. Continue to make the noise. Because just as uh, in all the other industries, black people are having a hard time. Black police officers are also having a hard time because they're having to put up with their constituents also. And that's like another stone on top of what we are dealing with and trying to focus on. We need to protect our black officers also because they're trying to do a job that they're just trying to make sure. Except you got a few who are like Candace Owens's type brothers inside of the uniform. But we're not gonna talk about them. We're gonna talk about so back in the blue pissed me off. If you really want to know how I feel, it pissed me off to the highest level of positivity.
I'm,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
be
tell you
quiet
something
now.
that's so funny. Thank you, Naisha. Y'all, she's called Trouble. Her other name is Trouble. But anyway, they don't know that actually what we're doing in Black Lives Matter, it will back the blue. We're gonna get rid of all them nasty, no good cops, and we're gonna take off of your plate people who have mental health issues and all of these social issues. When the change comes, we will have taken that out of their hands and we will help rid them of those police who are not worthy of the badge or the uniform. So that's the real back in the blue. All right, y'all, we're wrapping, and we're gonna wrap with this. Starting with John Reed, then Gary Holland, then Naisha, and we'll let Paulette be the anchor on this. Your closing words on the movement. What do you want the audience to know what you're thinking about the movement.
First off, I want to thank you, Brother Carl, and for all the distinguished panelists being here tonight, for everyone on Facebook, YouTube that are watching. We thank you so much for your support. Personally, where I see Black Lives Matter movement going is a positive one for change, a positive one for where we start to not only destroy the apple cart, we build our own apple carts, where we see our young Black boys and girls being taught in schools the truth about Black establishment here in the United States of America and how they overcame the racist system that was not designed for us. I see the Black Lives Matter movement becoming a very stronger voice. And I want to make this clarion call to my brothers and sisters in Black media. It's not enough just to be pro-Black. You have to be anti-racist. And being able to say, hey, be willing to stand for what you believe in, if it costs you everything. And knowing that by doing so, you will be able to stand alongside people who will support you. So I want to make that call to everyone tonight. And also that the time has come for us to fight against those racist labels which try to divide us. And what I see the Black Lives Matter movement continue to do is not just take down symbols of racism, but destroy institutions of racism. And by doing so, we're able to establish the power and beauty of what it means to be Black. And so let's continue to do that. So that's where I see the Black Lives Matter movement going. I see it not just saying we're changing a name here, we're changing a law here, or here we're putting the people in a position of power. We're giving more economic opportunities to our people so that, number one, Black is established, that Black is powerful. And by doing so, we will see the change where we want to see happen. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time tonight and give a voice to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Amen. Thank you, John. Gary.
Hey, I'll just real quickly again. I thank everybody also. But when I was listening to John speak just now, I was thinking about the scripture, and I was thinking about the refiner's fire that we read about in the book of Malachi. And I view the last several hundred years of our time being here in the U.S. as being in that refiner's fire. But as you read about that refiner's fire, when you put gold in, it burns off the impurity, it burns off the dross, and what comes out is pure. I view the Black Lives Matter movement as being toward the end or toward the exit of this refiner's fire, and all the things we've gone through, all the things our parents, our grandparents, all the way down the line have gone through as our people have been in this fire. It's allowing us to be ready. It's allowing us to come out with intelligence. It's allowing us to come out with the finances. It's allowing us to come out with the faith, with the unity that we really need to work on, by the way, and with the desire to really finally effect change. We're not giving up anytime soon. As Carl said, people are tired of the weight that we've been bearing for hundreds of years. And people are now saying enough is enough, and they're not giving up. And change is coming. There's going to be positive change. It may not be during the lifetime of the old graybeards like me, but change is coming, and we're coming out of this refiner's fire. My call to action for those that are watching, roll up your sleeves and get involved. Our opponents are patient. They will sit back and they'll say, just wait a couple of months. They'll go back to doing what they've always done. Just wait them out. And I want to challenge you right now. Roll up your sleeves, get involved, share your ideas, share the things you're passionate about, right? Leverage your relationships to help this movement, to help bring about change, to help make a difference, to help us all come out of this fire better than we've always been, and to come out as pure gold in a way, like John was saying, that our Black is shining, right? And that changes are being made so that our children can enjoy them and live in a world that has accountability and equality and opportunity and fairness and justice. But everybody watching now, or if you're watching later, it's time for you to roll up your sleeves and get involved, and to not sit back behind your keyboard and type all day, but get involved, make a change, let your voice be heard. So thanks, Carl. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Gary. Naisha.
When Jesus was talking to the disciples, he said, "You cannot put wine in old wine skins. You have to get a new wine skin to put that new wine in." And so we are making the new wine skin to add new wine to replenish here. My final word to everyone is that to continue pressing, to continue educating each other, educating yourselves. Make sure that you don't get weary. That means making sure that your friends, your family in the movement, your leaders and elders in the community aren't getting weary, because again, it's going to be a long road. So I'm uplifting Mr. Gary, I'm uplifting Mr. Reed, I'm uplifting you, Mr. Carl, you, your wife, Tisha. Listen, this is a long time coming, but I believe that right now is what we are witnessing, is what I would call a great awakening. So all these other movements that we've had that made change, and it's made change and made change, and then we became stagnant at a point where Negroes just felt like they had arrived. And so right now we are awakening from the arrival that never did happen. And so right now we are going to continue on focusing on our communities individually, so that our message can spread into the other communities. But that's only going to work by people coming together, working together, understanding your economic power, understanding your mental and power, understanding your soulful power that you have as Black people. Make sure that you are buying Black. Make sure that you are supporting Black owned business, entrepreneurship, any, I don't care what it is. They could be selling pencils. Buy the daggone pencils, and buy the pencils at the rate that they are selling it at, and don't ask for a discount, because again, when we starting up businesses, we don't get the same leverage as these other people do. Just know that the movement is happening, and be on the right side of the movement. I'm all black, black, blackity black, and on Saturday I'm extra black. Okay. Thank you for having me, Mr. Armstrong.
God bless you, dear. Paulette.
I will say to Naisha, yes, ma'am. I'm black and I'm proud. I am black and I'm proud. And I was sitting here as John and Gary began to talk, and I start sometimes writing stuff down. And the biggest thing, one, get involved. See what's going on in your community and get involved. You may think, oh, well, they'll get it done, but don't let them get it done without you. You have a voice, you have a say so. Use your voice, use your say so. Get involved, roll up your sleeve and get down and dirty. A lot of people don't like to do the down and dirty stuff, but somebody has to do it. So get involved. Once you get involved, don't quit. You may see change, you may see progress, but don't quit. You may think that nothing is happening, but don't quit. You may not see any change. It may seem like it's getting worse before it get better, but don't quit. Just whatever you do not quit. Another thing, vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. Our fathers and forefathers and ancestors did not die in the street, get hurt, beat up, bumps and bruises for you to sit at home on election day. Get up off your stool or do nothing and go and vote. Um, Once again, we're not against the police. We are for us, but we're not against you. So stop. I can't say it enough. I want everybody to understand that the Black Lives Matter movement is not against the police. We are against the brutality that is happening from the police department. Change is coming. Just be ready for the change. Don't get left behind, and don't quit.
I want to part with this. BLM is about justice, all sorts of justice. And we're on the right side because God is about justice. He sent the prophet Amos to talk to Israel because he was so fed up with all of the unrighteousness and injustice. And here's just a small snippet from Amos chapter 5, verses 21 through 24. God said, I hate, I despise your feast days, and I do not savor your sacred assemblies. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your grain offerings, I will not accept them, nor will I regard your fatted peace offerings. Take away from me the noise of your songs, for I will not hear the melody of your stringed instruments. But let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. No justice, no peace. And that comes from the mouth of God. No
Amen.
justice, no peace. And until we get justice, you're not going to have peace from us, and you're not going to have peace from God. So get on the right side. We thank God for every ally, and we yet pray for our enemies. You're going to need prayer. Anybody on the wrong side of God, you're going to need prayer. I fear for anyone who has the cup of anger, God's cup of anger poured out on them. That's
My God.
not a good place to be. So listen, I thank all of you, the panelists. You have been awesome. I thank you for your time. We're right at an hour and 24 minutes. I know how valuable your time is, especially on a Saturday. I'm going to try my best to keep the conversation going every Saturday on Carl's Conversations. I'm going to have a panel, and we're going to be talking about something regarding this movement because I want to keep the conversation fresh. These panelists have an open invite anytime they want to get down with me. All they got to do is let me know. All right. So we thank God for all of you who commented. Dominique, I see your comment. Me and you're going to handle that on a whole nother thing. We're going to get together. We're going to do something. That's my younger cousin. He got some stuff going on, and we're going to handle that on another panel. Thank you, Paulette. Thank you, John. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Miss Trouble Naisha. I appreciate y'all. May God bless you. May have you. Please do not forget to subscribe to Carl's Conversations. That platform on YouTube so I can keep things like this going. And if you have not followed me on Facebook, make today the day that you do that. Stafford Black, enough, PW, perspective, heart for the community. We represent all those entities. If you want to join in and do something awesome for your community, no matter where you are, if you're watching this, then you're close enough. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. May God bless you and may heaven smile upon you. Good evening.